I swear there are parts of this film, like this bullet, that are so jarring it makes me wonder if they were intending to release this in 3D. And not the good 3D like the James Cameron uses. I'm talking Spy Kids 3D. After 19 movies, it must be challenging to come up with an original cold open. But in what universe would surfing ever be the preferred method of approach for a secret agent? That is hard as and I fail to see how it is any more stealthy than simply swimming to shore. Also, the FX in this surfing scene is terrible, and we could absolutely sin that. But what's even more sinful is that neither North or South Korea have surfable beaches. Judging by the military presence here, this seems like a very important facility. So why make the power line to what looks like one of its key defenses so easily accessible? How hard would it be to link this up to a f***ing klaxon that goes off the second it's tampered with? I'm not going to question MI6's undoubtedly impressive reconnaissance resources, but I'd love to know how they were able to find out exactly what this chap was going to be wearing so they could dress Bond in the same thing ahead of time. Also, why does it matter? Are they insinuating that this gentleman is more distinguishable by his clothing than by his f***ing face? Is whoever he's meeting with just going to be like, well, it doesn't look a damn thing like him, but that is his jacket. Okay, I'm convinced. Let's trade some diamonds. Literally using someone as a punching bag.
Few men have the guts to trade conflict diamonds since the UN embargo.
I know all about the UN. I studied at Oxford and Harvard.
Is Moon suggesting you need a college level of education or higher to understand what the University of Nebraska is?
His name is James Bond, a British assassin.
Movie wants us to believe James Bond couldn't hear any part of this exchange, but he's very close by and Zhao knows that he's a secret agent who would be very aware of his surrounding. Why wouldn't Zhao call Colonel Moon a little farther away from where James is standing? No, he said kill the spy, not walk his ass over to this random spot and then wait a few seconds so he can figure out a way to escape. 20 movies later and the bad guys still can't just f***ing shoot the man. Blink, blink, goes bang, bang. For some physics-defying reason, rather than exploding, this rocket conveniently decides to instead propel the car into these handy fuel containers so it can provide a much larger explosion. Neat! Bond rightfully throws the driver off here, but why take the risk of leaving this other soldier on board? Company? I have to admire the variety of Moon's arsenal here, but my god, he needs to go back to the manufacturer with this shit. Bond should be riddled with bullets and on f***ing fire right now. Also, f*** you movie if you're trying to say these pathetic excuses for trees were supposed to be shielding Bond in any way from this amount of firepower. The hovercraft explodes because it hits a tree? There's an old Korean legend that says all British secret agents have bulletproof legs. I have no basis for that, but I fail to see any other reason why Moon would continue to shoot this conveniently discarded bulletproof vest as opposed to Bond's significantly less bulletproof kneecaps. As we find out later, Colonel Moon survives this, and all he needs is a new face. Bell bonding. Don't say Saved by the Bell, don't say Saved by the Bell, don't say Saved by the Bell.
Saved by the Bell.
God damn it! Also, scene does not contain a Zach Morris, A.C. Slater, Samuel Screech Powers, Lisa Turtle, Kelly Kapowski, or Jesse Spano.
My son is dead.
But how does he know that was his son? He just got here. That could be anyone's hovercraft in the water. In fact, I'm amazed he even knows where here is. He said himself. So Bond and Moon would have been long gone by the time he even arrived. Instead of injecting any of the glitzy and striking visuals into the credits like all the past Bond films have done, Die Another Day chooses to have 3 minutes and 17 seconds of torturing Bond highlights, while a terrible Madonna club banger plays. Excitement? Don't judge me, but I actually enjoy the fact that Bond is captured and tortured during this opening sequence. It's the first time in 19 movies that we've truly seen him take a beating. It actually makes you think, will he be okay? Unfortunately, this is immediately undermined by Bond getting over it in less than 24 hours. It's barely referenced in the whole f***ing movie. He's more focused on who gave him up, rather than dealing with the intense trauma of being tortured for the last 14 months. Also, James Bondage.
I don't condone what they do here.
Says the general holding Marathon Man approved tooth pliers. Also, considering it's been 14 months, Bond doesn't look too bad. I'd be expecting some missing fingers, facial disfigurement, broken teeth, but the man doesn't even seem to have a f***ing limp.
Who made him betray his country and his name?
Same person who betrayed me.
This is eventually proven to be true, but how could Bond know this now? How does he know anyone betrayed him? I mean, this wouldn't have been the first or even 20th time that his identity has been discovered while undercover by a simple background check.
Start walking.
This whole firing squad fake out was obviously intended to be a last-ditch effort to break Bond, but what it ends up feeling like is another bullshit attempt to make the audience think that this might be the end for him. I guess they were just hoping we'd politely ignore the fact that there are still 2 hours of movie left. Why is the general switching out his soldiers at this point? Does he have one set of soldiers to f*** with the guy that they are letting go, and another set of soldiers to line up for the return of one of their own? Seems like Moon could easily let go of one of these groups and cut his employment overhead in half. Diamonds are face ever. Also, is it really beyond the power of modern medicine and surgical technique to remove these diamonds? I'm amazed MI6 returns out in North Korea with a literal face full of highly illegal diamonds worth $1 billion. Having your first sign of freedom after 14 months be Michael Madsen.
I'd rather die in prison than let him loose.
You had your cyanide.
Threw it away years ago. What the hell is this all about?
But why did he throw it away? And why was he allowed to do so? Are the damn things optional? And is this news to M? You'd think this would be a fairly closely monitored item of Bond's inventory.
The top American agent in the North Korean High Command was executed a week ago.
And they think it's me.
You were the only inmate.
The only inmate? That would be an offensive waste of resources. That facility looked huge. Why would the North Koreans limit this place to solo occupancy just so this plot can have a shot at making sense for 7 seconds?
With the drugs they were giving you, you wouldn't know what you did or didn't say.
I know the rules.
I know the rules of charades, but that doesn't prevent me from shouting out the porn parody version of the film being mimed while I'm under the influence, and then denying any knowledge of said vulgarity the following morning. Or so I've been told by my family every Thanksgiving.
You're no use to anyone now.
I know this incarnation of M has always been especially blunt, but she seems particularly harsh throughout this entire scene. And this parting line is f***ing brutal in the most unnecessary manner. Either she believes him, but has to play her part regardless, or she thinks he was drugged and unable to control himself. Either way, the man deserves her pity, not her scorn. Reducing your heart rate by simply concentrating is a bullshit trope that has been used in plenty of movies. Anyway, I fail to see how reliving a year of hell would do anything other than send your heart rate through the roof. In fact, it would probably be easier and more believable if Bond relived the trauma to induce an anxiety attack and boost his heart rate to a dangerous point. Okay, he doesn't get the paddles, but he also doesn't lose f***ing consciousness. Also, Bond has just stopped his own heart and took a full shock from a defibrillator, but still manages to overpower these guys and walk away like he suffered nothing more than a f***ing nap.
Thanks for the kiss of life.
Bond was unconscious, so he can't know that it was her that gave him the kiss of life. There's nothing to say these men wouldn't have been just as keen to jump on the opportunity.
I am peaceful fountains of desire, the masseuse.
And you thought Pussy Galore and Plenty O'Toole were on the f***ing nose. Lifting a masseuse's dress to find her gun without explicit consent. Let's talk about this hiding place for a second. They have an entire camera crew hidden in what seems to be the room's closet. Is the plan to just hope that Bond isn't going to use the wardrobe at any point? Why not have this set up behind a mirror that doesn't have a f***ing handle?
I love my country, Mr. Bond.
I'd never ask you to betray your people.
We've been told this chap is a sleeper agent, but why is he so willing to help Bond? We're about to find out he doesn't even have a connection to Zhao, so what's in it for him?
My sources tell me this Zhao is very dangerous. I wish I could give you more help.
But why? I don't need another 30 minutes of backstory, but why the f*** should I care about Bond being on the run and without the support of MI6 if he can get all the information and resources he needs from some Cuban dude that he met for the first time 10 minutes ago?
Unless you want to be known as Fidel Castrata.
Pulling a gun for the sake of a pun.
Having missing the touch of a good woman.
Where was she hiding that?
Who says I'm good?
Where was she hiding that? Bond manages to wake up at the exact time Jinx is about to leave on a boat in perfect view of his f***ing hotel room window. It's as if his boner is a hot lady radar. I swear to God, a group of British spies should be called a convenience. Bond only manages to get a hold of this ticket because he happened to be at the bar right as this caricature of a human had it handed to him in a needlessly attention-drawing fashion. Not only that, but he also shouts his f***ing room number out so that Bond knows exactly where to go to steal the damn thing. The hardest thing Bond had to do was find a f***ing wheelchair, and I'm willing to bet even that was gifted to him by some guy who spontaneously regained the use of his legs. Why even bother bringing the South African along? The invite doesn't contain a picture, so who's going to know that it isn't Bond's invite? What we can be fairly certain of is that it probably doesn't cover admission for 2 people. So if anything, Bond is making his job harder. Well, I suppose someone has to if the writers aren't going to bother. Ironic that Agent a lot here is having so much trouble finding the spot. Also, this secret lab containing cutting-edge technology uses the most basic and obvious button to open its secret entrance, and one shitty-ass, easily unpluggable camera to watch it. Didn't think it was worth sparing any of that advanced technology for security.
Ich heiße Thomas Schiller. Ich möchte ein Nummern...
Are they trying to teach foreign languages by osmosis? I'm pretty sure that's not how it works.
Who's bankrolling your makeover, Zhao? Same person who set me up in North Korea.
Just like every damn gunpoint confrontation in cinema history, the character holding the gun is foiled by standing too close to the target. It's as if they're worried the gun will magically stop working as soon as it's out of arm's reach of the person they're pointing it at. Of course, Bond innately knows that randomly smacking this control panel will turn off the MRI machine. My God, the unlikely things you learn at spy school. Bond inexplicably chooses to not shoot Zhao here for fear of being mowed down by this slowly approaching gurney. Some wise ass thought it would be appropriate to program this phone detonator with a picture of an actual animated bomb. Presumably in case Jinx forgot what she was supposed to use it for. And that's sexist.
Jinx, you gotta get out of here now! Move! Move!
We later find out that Jinx is working for the NSA, and she just allowed an innocent ornithologist to run into a room that she knows is about to blow up at any second. No wonder the world hates us. NSA training clearly leaves something to be desired if Jinx is anything to go by. For some reason, she chose to burn this document from the least incriminating end first, and failed to make sure the incriminating portion was destroyed before dumping it in the waste bin immediately next to the person she just assassinated. Was the plan always to pick Jinx up from this point? There's nothing wrong with that, but it's damn convenient that the helicopter chase finishes exactly where Jinx has a perfect escape route.
There's some kind of marking here. GG.
the f did he manage to get GG from that? This could just as easily be a diamond-shaped stamp. F you and your GG. I think it's safe to assume that with a punny title like High Life, this is an in-flight magazine. So how fortunate is it that this particular issue just so happens to have a f***ing front page feature on the very man Bond is flying to investigate? Also, are profiles on millionaires the usual staple of these types of magazines? In my experience, you'd be lucky to find an article that doesn't loop back to something the airline is trying to sell you. So I guess the sin is reading? American Airlines? I'm fine with both. Even in 2002, playing the song London Calling over a sweeping shot of London was about as creative and original as using diamonds for the focal point of your James Bond movie. Or using a f***ing Union flag as a parachute for that matter.
What a wonderful day to become a knight.
Will you be using your title, Mr. Graves?
You know me. I'm proud of my adopted nation, but I'd never stand on ceremony.
Graves doesn't actually have a choice in the matter. You don't have to be a UK native to be knighted, but you do if you wish to use the title. A fact this reporter would have remembered if he wasn't so focused on being snarky.
After an entrance like that, you can't be surprised you've been called a self-publicizing adrenaline junkie, can you?
I prefer the term adventurer.
Well, I prefer the term smug-ass but YouTube won't let me say that anymore.
Do you mind? I think I've come undone.
Having Madonna in your film to quote Duran Duran song titles. Now, if you had Duran Duran in A View to a Kill complaining about all the material girls while they live to tell about them on holiday, this could be an interesting callback. But instead, it's just a shit cameo and makes an already terrible film worse.
Brilliant specimen. Completely flawless.
I was going to give Graves the benefit of the doubt and assume he was looking for his signature. But nope, we're expected to believe that he can tell the quality of this diamond after a 4-second naked eye inspection. And that is an insult to anyone who has spent good money on one of these cool eyeglass things. At this point, am I just kidding myself and thinking that the obviously easier and less risky route around the damn chair was ever in the cards? Considering Bond walks up to the sword in the wall, and this was an objectively terrible shot from Graves, he must have launched this before Bond even entered the room. We're going to find out shortly that Gustav Graves is Colonel Moon with a new face. However, did he also find a machine that would make him a few inches taller? He is much closer in height to Bond than when we saw him as Colonel Moon. Moneypenny shot? I have so many questions about this VR simulation situation. Firstly, was a dead Moneypenny intended to shock the audience, or were we supposed to think this was a simulation from the start? If the latter is true, then my second question is why bother with this external establishing shot? It has no bearing on Bond's simulation. So was it just included to trick the audience? Also, Bond was moving around a lot, and I don't see any sort of treadmill, conveyor belt set up here. So was he actually standing still the whole time? In which case, all this really is a very expensive firing range.
Aston Martin call it the Vanquish, we call it the Vanish.
Behold, the Aston Martin plot convenience.
Miss Frost, you volunteered for this operation, but in 3 months you've turned up next to nothing.
This may well be true, but I fail to see how this case report referring to Frost discovering an explosive device under a carpet in Downing Street has anything to do with Graves or her current assignment. If you're trying to cover up the fact that you're a supervillain, maybe don't have your own Fortress of Solitude.
I'm Mr. Kill.
Well, there's a name to die for.
Yeah, but in this film, you're choosing to die another day. Let's keep the superlative punning on point, shall we, James?
It's only by being on the edge that we know who we really are. Under the skin.
Get it? Because that's not his original skin. My God, it feels like they hired one person to write all the cheesy dialogue while the real writers got to work on the important stuff. But when it came to it, the real writers were so happy with what they came up with, they jumped ship and made the Bourne Identity instead. And with no time to hire new writers, the people who made this film just ran with the one dude and his cheesy script and hoped nobody would notice.
Besides, plenty of time to sleep when you're dead.
Confusing death with sleeping.
Ah, Miss Frost.
I'll show you your room.
A palace of ice. You must feel right at home.
The only thing more obnoxious than these on-the-nose character names is Bond finding a way to f***ing acknowledge them.
Imagine being able to grow crops the year round, bringing an end to hunger.
Yes, you need sunlight to grow crops, but is that really what's preventing us from solving world hunger? Aren't the bigger problems a shortage of arable land, overpopulation, and a lack of political will? Also, I don't care how confident you are in the construction of your ridiculous ice hotel. Do not point the sun at it!
Let there be light.
God complexes. The Aston Martin Vanquish has a V12 engine. I'm no car enthusiast, but even in neutral, I'm guessing the noise that engine makes lies somewhere between rather loud and, oh my God, my ears are bleeding. So it is beyond bullshit that these two guards don't hear it coming. Also, how did he get the car through this gate without raising any suspicion? Why is this random guard German, and why aren't his lips moving?
Warned me this would happen.
Why does Frost choose to reveal herself now? Wasn't she worried about Bond blowing her cover? Isn't he considerably less likely to be able to do that if he stays in the dark? You know us, we love a good old excessive candling sin, but on this occasion it is particularly sin-worthy because of all the unnecessary fire in the hotel made of ice!
Let's make it permanent.
Oh, use laser.
Don't leave a mess.
Then don't let him use the f***ing laser! Also, villain leaves hero to be dealt with by feckless henchmen who will of course fail to kill said hero despite having every advantage cliché. I guess I won't be needing this anymore. We just saw the laser moving pretty quickly when it was first brought into position, so what's with the painfully slow approach here? And why wait until after Bond has stopped the laser to attack? Whose side is Mr. Kill on? I'm sorry, but this is way too close for Jinx to have been certain that the laser wasn't going to hit Bond as well. Whose side is she on?
And what are you gonna do?
Unfinished business.
Jinx accepts this bullshit non sequitur as an acceptable answer to her valid query.
So you live to die another day.
Roll credits.
It was so good of you to bring your gun to bed with us.
Based on some quick Googling, a loaded gun will weigh noticeably more than an unloaded one. Now, perhaps it wouldn't be noticeable to you or I, but you've got to believe that Bond can tell the f***ing difference.
There will be others after me, you know that.
Oh, you mean your American friend, Jinx? Soon to be the victim of a tragedy.
I assume this trap was meant for when Bond went to retrieve Frost and Jinx got unlucky. But Graves makes it sound like it was meant for her all along. So how did he know Bond was going to send her to get Frost? Does a neon dream machine make you f***ing psychic?
You know I've missed your sparkling personality.
How's that for a punchline?
That would be icy hot at CinemaSins. Running on ice. Also, why does Bond run for this ridiculous mode of transport instead of the Vanquish, which I believe is parked nearby? Firstly, it's a miracle he wasn't gunned down while running in the wide open like this. Secondly, sure, this thing is fast, in a straight line. Wouldn't he prefer something more maneuverable as well? It, just let the plot armor take care of the bullets.
Icarus will lock onto the heat signature and concentrate the sun's power.
How does Icarus compensate for the presumably overwhelming heat signature of its own f***ing heat ray? Looks like Bond graduated from the Prometheus school of running away from sunbeams. Die Another Day makes the submarine in the ice scene from The Fate of the Furious look at least 12% more realistic. Also, why did Bond think that flying off the edge would save him anyway? There's no guarantee that the hook will latch on, and even if it does, what's stopping Graves from allowing the ray to continue over the edge to vaporize Bond as he hangs there, willingly suspended by our disbelief? I mean, Graves will let the laser continue over the edge of the cliff, right? Why wouldn't he? Right? God damn it!
Time to draw the line.
And he's not even being metaphorical. Like, he's literally drawing a fucking line. This fucking movie, man. Even for 2002, this CGI is bad. Really bad. Like Rubber Neo mixed with the Scorpion King bad. If the car is visible enough for Bond to be able to steer it remotely, it's visible enough to be totally useless. While the car might have been invisible to the naked eye, Bond wouldn't be. Any guard walking by would just see Bond melt down in the snow. Hey, good thing Zhao's car has the thermal imaging add-on. You never know when you'll run into an invisible car these days. Why the f*** does Zhao put his rockets away? He has like 16 rockets here. 16! This is the perfect time to fire every last one of them, and he decides, nope, let's continue with this James Bond on ice bullshit instead. The Vanquish has been hit with a rocket, flipped onto its roof, flipped again, but now looks completely f***ing spotless. Aston Martin is seriously underselling whatever paint they're using on these things. Bond, having zero clue where Jinx is located in this room, manages to crash into it without crashing into her. It's impressive. Sinful, but impressive.
Come on, it's warm in here.
It may well be warm in here, but it's the hotel full of water in there that's really doing the damage, Bond, not the cold. Man, Jinx must have 9 lives. You could say she's Catwoman.
We wouldn't have had a mole at all if you'd disclosed the fact that Miss Frost and Moon were on the Harvard fencing team together.
But why would he? M probably hadn't volunteered to Falco that Frost was working for MI6, so why would he think anything more of the connection between her and Moon? The real question is, how did this fact not come to light during any of the million background searches that are run on you before you work for MI6? How do you miss the fact that one of your agents was on the fucking fencing team with the son of the highest ranking general in North Korea? How?
My God. Mobilize the South Korean troops.
That's it? The greatest superpower in the world can only spare one measly rocket to take out this death ray? And then fucking gives up after it gets cooked?
Vehicles.
Good thing Jinx is there. How else would Bond know that those were vehicles approaching? Jinx is the Gwen DeMarco of Die Another Day. No one sees this.
You see, Father, I remember my art of war, and this is what guarantees that victory.
Basing your strategy on a forgettable Wesley Snipes movie is an odd flex, but you do you, Gustav Graves, Moon.
My son.
Just in time for you to mourn the loss of your other son. That's the stuff. Biblioclasm. I am really struggling to find a good reason for Frost to be on this plane at all, let alone why she is dressed like this. I think I land on the idea that it's probably just pandering to the audience, collective boners, which I guess is what Bond films are all about, but it's still a fucking needlessly revealing outfit. This electric shock from Gustav's gear killed General Moon quickly, but somehow Bond will survive all of his shocks.
Time to face gravity!
I think the real hero here is good old Vlad the inventor, who, for some reason, included a button on this suit that would electrocute the wearer and told Bond about it so he would know exactly what to do if the opportunity presented itself. What a guy!
I told you I was a jinx!
To be totally fair, Agent Johnson, I don't think your proximity is the problem here, as much as it is the challenge of starting a helicopter while in a f***ing free fall.
Now, you said something about going down together?
Considering this was Brosnan's last Bond film and the spin-off series featuring the Jinx character never materialized, this might be the most honest line in this entire film. Oh my god, who would choose to have a session on top of a shitload of diamonds? If you avoid sex on the beach due to sand getting in every crevice, imagine what a diamond creeping up your... I can't even finish that sentence.
The same thing that happens to everything else.